to live a fulfilled life, you have to jump. You're hesitant because you don't have wings. Yet. Pulling the trigger is about trusting your instincts. Your gut knows what you want to do before you do. Train yourself to listen to your first thought, the uncensored one. Rash, impulsive, careless. Despite the negative connotations, these are actually necessary components when it comes to mastering the art of pulling the trigger. One of the earliest leaps of faith I took was dropping out of college. Keep in mind, I had not even made a song yet. I was solely dropping out to make beats and focus on production 24/7. And also keep in mind, beats that at that time were terrible. The risk didn't resonate because I was more focused on jumping. I went to college after high school. I had straight A's, but shortly after midterms, my true calling could not be suppressed any longer and I lost interest in school. I missed one class, then I gradually started missing more and more, and then I stopped going altogether. While people were going to class, I stayed in my dorm room making beats and recording songs using nothing but my laptop. A part of me felt bad for not showing up to class until I realized that I already knew what I wanted to do with my life. My mom was really upset that I didn't want to go to school. My whole life, that's what she'd always wanted for us kids. My dad is actually the one who talked her off the ledge. He was super supportive of me pursuing my music. When they agreed to let me come home, my mom made me sign this piece of paper that basically said that if I wasn't financially independent by such and such date, then I'd have to go back to school or get a job. I instantly signed the paper. At the time, that date, which was like a year away, seemed so far off in the distant future. I thought, oh my God, by then I'm gonna be an ultra billionaire. That date came and went, and I was still fucking nowhere. When I first uploaded my music to TuneCore in 2011, on a good month, I would make $20. Somehow, I made it stretch. I would put $5 in my gas tank. Boogis and I would throw in another $5 each and get some disgusting alcohol. Then when we really wanted to treat ourselves, we would pull together another $5 and get as many McDoubles as we could. That McDonald's has now been torn down. Rest in peace. Luckily, our moms were the MVPs, as most are. Mine being Italian, his being Nigerian, we never went hungry. That was my glamorous routine for 5 years. I convinced my mom that I had to stay focused on my music. I was fortunate that my parents didn't make me pay rent. They're Italian though, and my mom would still prefer for me to live at home. Music was my day job and my moonlighting gig and my side hustle. I had finally jumped off the cliff and was in the middle of falling, but it felt like flying. It's all in your head. Looking back now, even I think it was a nuts decision and a really ballsy one to just drop out of college to make beats that at the time were terrible. It was as if I was jumping off the cliff and it was so instinctual that I didn't even realize I was jumping off the cliff. In fact, I didn't even see the cliff. I didn't even know I was jumping. If I had been so hell-bent on the idea that there was a cliff, that I was going to have to jump off of it, then I probably wouldn't have jumped. I'm terrified of heights. It's all in your head. The minute you think about something for too long, fear creeps in. You begin to doubt yourself. That's natural. However, when you choose to be inspired by fear, you will actually end up flipping it into fuel and thriving off of it. If you find yourself hesitating, don't. The what if will torment you. The oh well will free you. Utilize that way of thinking continuously. The staircase of your dreams is daunting because it's limitless and stretches far beyond what you can see. But stop focusing on the whole staircase and focus on the step in front of you. Overcoming hesitation is an ongoing challenge that everyone faces. In moments of decision, don't hesitate. Less think, more do. My intuition has driven my entire career, whether it's quitting school or picking an album title or making business decisions. Back in 2014, 2 different labels reached out to me. They were very interested and I was very broke. Looking back, it's clear that making a deal then would not have been the best route for me. Easy to say now, but at the time, I was hardly making $200 a month. There was no reason not to sign other than my intuition. The deals just didn't feel right. I had developed such a strong connection with my intuition that the fact that it didn't feel right was enough for me. I had faith something better was coming. Saying no to something that on the surface looks like a dream actualized takes a high level of intuition-influenced insanity. A record deal was a dream, but this one felt like it could turn into a nightmare. The offer, though, was an acknowledgement from the universe that my work was not going unnoticed. Take those acknowledgements as little signs that you're on the right path. It's just the universe saying to you, keep going. It's not saying, this is it. If you approach offers and opportunities from a place of fear that they're the only ones on the way, then you've put a limit on what you can receive. Instead, appreciate that you and your work are being recognized and sought after. Let that awareness boost your trust in yourself and the process. Don't hesitate, don't doubt, don't even worry about falling. Wings will grow. Jump.
Maybe I should wait till I see you naked.
Chapter 9. Naked. Keep your barriers down. Vulnerability is a magnet. My mom always tells me, keep your barriers down at all times. It's her way of reminding me to be open to receiving. It's a mantra that runs through my head all the time. What I've discovered is that keeping my barriers down doesn't just make me more receptive to inspiration, ideas, and success. It also allows me to be more vulnerable in my music and in my life. My mom gave me permission to be vulnerable. Sensitivity and vulnerability get a bad rap, especially in the hip-hop world, where vulnerability can be perceived as weakness, even though it's a strength. People are very scared of facing their insecurities, let alone having them out in the open because they don't want those vulnerabilities to be used against them. What most people don't realize, though, is that when you're honest about your vulnerabilities and when you wear them like a proud badge, then you block others from weaponizing your vulnerabilities against you. If you're upfront about your failings, your fears, your weaknesses, it is much harder to have them used against you. It's like Eminem's final battle in 8 Mile, when he rapped about all the things the other guy was going to make fun of him about, so that when it was the guy's turn to go, he didn't have anything to say and he forfeited. Being honest with yourself and with others is the best way to disarm people. I'm wildly honest. In personal relationships, I'm an open book. I'd rather you just know what's going on. I'm self-aware. You can't tell me anything about me that I don't already know or feel about myself. And if you did, I'd probably say that's an interesting perspective. You can't use me against me. By being honest, I flip my vulnerabilities into victories. My career is an example of vulnerability winning. My first song to start gaining traction was Goodbye. I put out the video in February of 2014. By December 6th of the same year, it had become my first creation across the 100,000 view threshold. That was big for me, not just because I'd broken the 100,000 mark, but because the song that broke the 100,000 mark. It was so personal. At the core, it was a breakup song. The girl I was with had been unfaithful numerous times, so I made a song expressing my truth and included names of all those involved, which looking back seems extremely petty, but it worked out. I put myself out there fully and I was rewarded. That gave me a boost and confirmed the idea that vulnerability wins. My songs are 3-minute autobiographies. That practice has taught me to freely bare my soul to the world. Instead of putting your best foot forward, put all your feet forward. This is it. Take it or leave it. The crowd favorite narrative is to not give a fuck about anything. I personally give the most fucks. I care so much about my music and my life and my goals, and that's part of why it's worked. People always downplay how badly they want something so that if they end up not getting it, they don't look stupid. This is a fear-based emotion as opposed to operating out of love. Remember those kids in high school who would never let on how much they wanted to go to a particular college? They'd give some half-assed answer like, yeah, I kind of want to get into that school, so that when they didn't get in, they could plausibly say, I didn't really want to go anyway. But if you really want to go to a particular college to get a certain job, gain someone's love, or make your dream a reality, own that desire. What would happen if you wanted something unabashedly? If you had said your desire out loud, you would have fought harder for it. At that point, you have to prove yourself right, which is far more powerful than proving someone else wrong. You are going to fall, and it is going to look stupid to people on the outside. But what's even more stupid is being the people on the outside. They don't even believe in themselves enough to have the opportunity to fall. You have to be willing to throw yourself out there, and sometimes that means you are going to look foolish. Believe out loud. I don't care about looking stupid. Actually, that's a lie. In 2017, when I was already successful, I tweeted, I can't wait to be at the Grammys next year, I'm winning 10. Naturally, when the 2018 Grammys rolled around and I wasn't there, the internet had a field day. At first, I didn't feel foolish. I vocalized what I wanted to the universe without a timid, cross-your-fingers, yellow apple that hovers between sweet red and tart green kind of hope. But now I do have to confess that at a certain point that I did feel foolish and I deleted the tweet, and I still don't have a fucking Grammy, so fuck y'all. Put my tweet back up. In all seriousness, this was a much-needed lesson in embracing my vulnerability. There are times throughout your journey when you have to check yourself and remind yourself of who you are. This was one of those moments. If you are terrified of being critiqued, I suggest you do nothing and be nothing. That is the one way to avoid criticism, although you still won't be able to escape your own. And that's honestly the only one that matters anyway. If you are living for the approval of others, you will always have a void. Fill the void with self-approval, which will blossom into self-love. People will try to tell you how to be you. They'll tell you how and when to live, how to talk, how to dress, etc. Do not become a vending machine. Don't give a fuck what anyone else says about you. Give more fucks about what you say about you. Yell out what you want and be honest about how badly you want it. Wear your heart on your sleeve. Actually, fuck the sleeves. Get naked. Train like it. Before I blew up, I was sitting in my little corner of the world. Nobody knew who I was, but I knew who they were. I was studying them every day and night while surveilling this music ecosystem so that I understood every minute detail. When Boogus and I started making music, we covered the entire wall of his basement with magazine cutouts of rappers and various music industry icons. It was a stakeout. If you went down there, you would have thought we were solving a murder or plotting one. It was our war room. We studied everything and everyone at play, from interviews to show footage to underground songs and moments that the rest of the world was oblivious to. I consciously soaked up so much, and I subconsciously soaked up even more. Boogus and I studied the fan, the player, the coach, and the owners. We knew every artist's discography inside and out. We knew which songs and albums fans responded to the most. We knew who actually owned the songs and the albums. We knew who set up the tours for those songs and albums. You can't expect to succeed if you don't know what worked and what didn't work for people before you. Back when I was 19, I thought everything Boogies and I were doing was going to blow up tomorrow. When it didn't, I had to learn that I could control my work and my self-belief, but not the timing. Patience was essential. I put out my first project in December of 2011, but it wasn't until the top of 2016 when things really started to take off. In that window of time, I released 11 projects and more than 80 songs. I thought my first project, Velvet, should instantly make me the biggest artist in the world, and when it didn't, I was appalled. I was thinking, how did it not blow up? What the fuck is going on? When my music finally did take off years after that, I was thankful that it hadn't happened when I thought I wanted it to. Mentally, I was not ready. Patience isn't just the process of waiting. It's your attitude and how you handle the waiting time. Until my music took off, it was just trial and error. I fell on my face a bunch of times. I'd think something was gonna blow up, and then it wouldn't. When that happens 10 times, it would literally be insane to not think, all right, it might be something I'm doing. It was on project 8 or 9 that I really started to feel like I found myself sonically. Still, nothing had worked. But when nothing works, keep working. I never lost an ounce of enthusiasm. I lost track of time. That's why I found success. Have tunnel vision on a goal and keep your head down. Don't distract yourself and don't disrupt your momentum with the constant need to look up and look around. You have to master the balance of awareness and focus. You'll know when to look up. When I put out projects 9, 10, and 11, I knew that they were great and I couldn't understand why they weren't working. So I came up with a new strategy of putting out a song every week. I had studied that when dropping an album, more times than not, the song with the most amount of plays was the first one on the album. I reflected on my career up until that point and realized that the music was not the issue. The delivery of it was. I had an epiphany that I should essentially drop one-song albums. Every song would get its own promotion, its own artwork, and its own fair chance at being heard. I went away for a couple months and just made a bunch of songs. I wanted 26 songs in the vault because I knew that being half a year ahead would provide me with more than enough cushion to create without conflict. I also made my whole next album because I knew I was gonna blow up and I didn't want to have to scramble around and make an album on the fly once it happened. Chess, not checkers. I knew what my next move was gonna be and I had a plan for how to play the entire game. Once I had half a year mapped out, then I put out song 1. I wanted to always be 6 months ahead so that when everything took off and I couldn't get into the studio as often, I'd still have music to release. I spent that time painting a perfect sonic portrait of myself. At that point, the whole world was telling me it's not gonna work. I had journalists telling me it's not gonna work. My own career results were telling me it was not gonna work. I had put out 11 fucking projects and nothing had taken off. The takeaway from all this, though, was that I was now highly versed in what didn't work. I studied my failures and strategized my triumphs. The delusion at the beginning of my career was now backed by research. So I thought, let me try one more thing, the song a week until I blow up. It worked. My TuneCore earnings crept up and then they skyrocketed. In June 2015, I made $620. And in June 2016, I made $102,000. Keep going consistently and positively, and if it doesn't work out, then pivot, switch your approach, and keep going. never stop how to survive in the wild. Knowing that you are enough is invigorating. When you succeed on your terms and only your terms with no one else's fingerprints on your work, you become a superhero. There's nothing you can't do at that point. Captain your own ship. How are you going to build a ship, let someone else steer it, and then be surprised when it doesn't go in the direction that you had in mind? Or worse, why would you abandon your own ship in the first place? Artists often sign deals that do exactly that. Deals that have them ceding control of their own creation. Stay in the cockpit. People often get rid of their entire ship when they get offered another one. Or, even more tragic, some people barely even have a ship. They're still putting together their little raft on the sand when some big shiny ship pulls up and offers them a ride, and due to a lack of self-belief and confidence that the little raft they're building is going to turn into a big shiny ship too one day, they board the better-looking alternative. But you never really know who or what you'll find on that big ship, and you may not like how it's being run and where it's headed, and you might end up wishing you were back on your own ship, boat, or even building just a little raft on the sand. Even if you take your ideas, your talent, or your art to a larger entity, navigate that choice on your own terms. If you decide to get on someone else's ship, just make sure yours comes along too, so that you always have an out, which is really just an in back to yourself. Too many people, especially creative people, shy away from the business side of their careers. They're scared of what they don't understand and feel like it's not their job to understand. In too many cases, that results in them relinquishing those responsibilities to others. Oftentimes, this leads to mismanagement of the career and causes turmoil that unfortunately leads to their self-inflicted demise. Educate yourself. You have to be hands-on with your dream if you want it to go your way. The business side should support the creativity, not control it, and certainly not interfere with it. No matter what you do, the deeper your understanding of the full scope of your career, from creative to sales to the mechanics, the better equipped you will be to survive in the wild. I've always questioned authority. I question teachers, I question principals and the principals. I question managers, I question bosses. Having a boss was never for me. The idea of someone else ever having the power to tell me what to do, let alone contractually, wasn't for me. I didn't have to know the ins and outs of the business to know that I didn't want a boss. I didn't want to give up control of the what, how, when, and why I was making what I was making. For me, the first step in self-sufficiency was owning the means of operation. I wanted uninhibited freedom to self-explore sonically. But that type of self-exploration requires a forum that doesn't have curfews and random passersby. From the extremely bootleg studio in my parents' basement to the upgraded studio in Boogis's parents' basement, we always intuitively knew that we needed to own the gym we were practicing in. The lights were always on. Self-reliance is purely a survival technique. I didn't have a choice. I wanted to make a song, but I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know anyone who did, so I couldn't call anyone. I had to figure it out, from the producing to the writing to the engineering to the performing to the mixing to the mastering. All of those titles were irrelevant to me and still are. I had one goal: make a song. Any role that I had to play to complete the song and the objective, I did instinctively. So I just banged on buttons till it sounded good. When I produced Boogis's first 2 projects, we still thought of the mixing of a record as this foreign thing that we needed someone else to do for us. I didn't even really know what it was or what it entailed. So, back in 2010, during our second semester of our senior year in high school, when we could still afford him, Boogis found this guy on Twitter, Mixed by Ali, who was the in-house mixer for, at the time, a very underground independent LA label called Top Dog Entertainment. Mixed by Ali is now a Grammy-winning mixer who has worked with everyone from Drake to Dr. Dre. We would send him stuff to mix and then he would send it back. But sometimes the mixes didn't really sound the way we had imagined. Eventually, I said, you know what? We know what we want it to sound like, so let's just do it ourselves. I started consciously putting on the mixing hat, clicking and pressing buttons until I found combinations that sounded like what was in my head. What I learned was that by doing it myself, I got the sound that I wanted. It's that simple. No one knew what I wanted my music to sound like more than I did. So if I could just figure out how to make the connection between the sound I heard in my head and the sound coming out of the speakers, then I knew we were fine. I was working on several careers at once. I was trying to perfect making beats. I was trying to perfect being a writer. I was trying to perfect being a rapper and a singer. I was trying to learn how to perform, engineer, mix, and master. Trial and error was the best teacher I ever had. Self-sufficiency was why I was able to make so much music, because I didn't have to call anyone. I could go downstairs and make a whole album and not have to pick up the phone once. That was freedom. Freedom is power. Music is collaborative, and beautiful things happen when you work with other musicians, but you don't want to be in a position where you are dependent on anyone else to make a song. I need to be productive. I'm impulsive. I need to be able to create at any moment. I don't have time to ask someone else to facilitate my creativity. Get out of the chair and I'll do it. I was controlling my own workload, controlling my own growth, and therefore controlling my own trajectory. When you put on each hat and you try out each different line of work, no one can bullshit you anymore because you've gotten your feet wet in every craft's pond. When we started shooting music videos, we had a friend who was really talented at making them, helping us, but he would take a really long time. We just figured it was taking as long as it was supposed to because that's what he said. We didn't know any better. We didn't know what goes into it. One day, we got sick of waiting for him, so Boots and I went and got a camera and we thought, how hard can this be? Just press record. So we bootlegged the Final Cut Pro software so we could edit our own footage. We went to LA and shot a video for Goodbye. The very next day, I edited the video and then we put it out. Now it has over 90 million views on YouTube and it's RIAA Gold certified. Our friend had been telling us that this was a month-and-a-half project, but we turned it around in 2 days. Once we figured out that aspect, Boogies and I went to a photo studio and shot 6 videos in 1 day. It only takes a long time when other people do it. It doesn't take a month and a half to turn around a music video. It takes a month and a half for them to get around to it because they don't love it like you do. Don't sleep on yourself. You are the answer. Society wants your life itemized in boxes that they can put labels on. They want you to behave a certain way. They want you to follow a certain career path. They want you to date a certain person. You must recognize this and reject it. Life truly starts on the outside of the walls. Don't fall for the idea that you need a relationship to be happy. Don't fall for the idea that you need to be realistic or humble or practical. Don't fall for your own doubt and don't fall into the trap of comparison. Your mirror should only show one reflection. It is easy, natural, and encouraged to feel on top of the world when you reach any milestone in your career, no matter how big or small. A lot of upcoming artists lose to themselves in the arena of comparison. The 10,000 plays that can make you feel as tall as a skyscraper are the same 10,000 plays that can make you feel as small as an ant. The variable is that you took your eyes off your own grass and checked how much greener everyone else's was. Naturally, you saw several lawns that appeared greener than your own, which ultimately fueled your sense of inferiority. The reality is that you may think that someone's grass is greener than yours, but they might have AstroTurf. When you lose yourself in something you are passionate about, you will find yourself there too. But in order to lose yourself, let alone find yourself, you will need uninterrupted time by yourself. You must work in the dark for your light to shine. Being alone is imperative. It's when you're going to self-explore. If you're constantly seeking company, then you need to take a step back and reassess. You're scared to even face yourself. Embrace this fear, though, and take it on as a challenge. Take it day by day. This is a race, yeah, but not against anyone or anything else except your own doubt. A lot of people get alone and think, I'm lonely. So many people define and limit their lives to wanting a relationship above all else. So, instead of choosing a person out of love, they choose a relationship out of fear of being alone. They're trying to fall in love with someone else before they fall in love with themselves. This will never work. You will always have a void that only you can fill. You will find the person you're supposed to find when you're living your true purpose. In fact, you will both actually collide into each other. Don't set relationship goals, set life goals. If people work toward their dreams with the same zeal that they work toward getting into a relationship, they would be successful. I'm not saying stop putting love first. I'm saying stop misplacing love. Start by putting that love into yourself. Fall in love with the dream of yours. This type of self-love only grows in the garden of solitude. When I was alone, music happened. I happened. Music is my best friend and my passion. It is who I want to spend time with. One afternoon in high school, I was at the piano talking with my music theory teacher, Mr. Spraggins, about whether to go to school for music or whether I should do something more practical. I didn't mean it. I was regurgitating what I'd heard from my parents and society. So I told him, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket and just go do music. He said something super profound. His response was, just make sure you have a basket. Fireworks shot across my brain. Everything in my soul shifted. Here was this teacher who I only had for 1 semester in high school, providing me with life-changing advice. I've known people for much longer who have impacted my life far less. Don't block your blessings because you're so crippled by the idea of where the message should come from that you fail to receive the message. He didn't want me to fall in the trap of playing it safe. He didn't want me to fall in the trap of doing what my parents wanted me to do. My mom wanted me to be a lawyer or a finance guy, probably because I once won the school-wide stock market game in 8th grade, which I guess looking back is kind of impressive, but not really. Anyway, he didn't want me to fall for being realistic. Be realistic is the worst advice I've ever received. It is a commonly used phrase that, when internalized and accepted, brands a life of mediocrity. The people championing realism are usually the people who gave up on their own dreams. The reason someone will tell you something is unrealistic is because you haven't done it yet, and deeper than that, they themselves haven't done it yet. Being realistic is claustrophobic. It suffocates you and limits you to only what's been done so far. Will Smith explained in an interview, "It is unrealistic to walk into a room and flip a switch and lights come on. Fortunately, Edison didn't think so. It is unrealistic to think that you can bend a piece of metal and fly people over an ocean. Fortunately, the Wright brothers didn't think so." I moved around a bit as a kid. New Jersey, Kentucky, North Carolina, and then finally Georgia. Doing that can either make you get heavily attached to things or provide you with a sense of detachment because you see that certain things and people are interchangeable. I think for myself, it was probably a little bit of both. I wasn't that close with the other kids, so all I had was myself. That social detachment freed me. It freed me to be alone with myself. I became centered, which is something I've been able to carry with me throughout my journey. It is a source of confidence and pride. It's given me immunity to certain social constructs. Individual thinker over group thinker. I hate the word humble with a vengeance. The dictionary definition is disappointing to say the least, given how idolized the character trait is. The word humble has been defined as to be marked by modesty or meekness with regard to spirit or attitude or behavior, or as showing submissive respect, being low in rank or quality. All of these things are about lowering yourself to appease others. I understand what people are trying to say. They're trying to tell you to stay grounded. But you can be grounded without being weak in behavior or low in rank, and you should not pretend that you are part of some strange show for other people where whoever has the most curtailed confidence wins. Being humble is living according to other people, because even that humble person thinks they're the greatest thing in the world. But in order to come off humble, in order to not offend insecure people, they will silence their roar. Society doesn't feel comfortable unless you're wearing a muzzle. No one who is winning has a problem with someone else winning. Being humble is a strange societal rule that has been drawn up to keep your own confidence in check and keep your self-belief in their pocket. They want to decide when you can have your own confidence. Humility makes you your own worst enemy. Why spend time trying to dim your own light out of fear that it could get in someone else's eyes? If their light was shining, they would not even see yours. There's always going to be people who do what they're told, who play it safe, who follow the rules, and who criticize anyone who doesn't. There's also always the people who question, who take risks, who embrace uncertainty, and who are open to discovery. Which kind of person do you want to be? Don't fall for it.